Hi, everyone. Welcome to our last panel of the day. I just wanted to welcome you, everyone. Few people are still coming on over, not a problem. But I'm happy to introduce our moderator for this session is Kara Kruzak. She is the President and CEO of WIL Canada. So over to you, Kara.
Good afternoon, everybody. So thank you for joining us to today's session around industry and academia and how we're working together, keeping up with quality and what's new in this space. I would like to start by acknowledging that the lands in which I'm joining you from today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe people, many of who continue to live and work alongside here with me today. This dish is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. And I encourage you all to learn about the lands in which you are joining us from today as well. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuits people, and acknowledging them reminds us of the great standard of living that we have is directly related to the resources and friendship of the Indigenous people. And as we are all engaged in the conversation about work integrated learning that we are going to shortly, I'd also like to acknowledge that the Indigenous people and their principles of learning by doing, passing along skills to generations, are learnings that we are able to learn more from in their teachings. So thank you. So my name is Kara Kruzak. Thank you for having me today. I will let you know that I am a working mom who is at home, and you may or may not see children as I've been trying to quiet them, but it seems to be the after school bustle is this time of day. So what I'm going to do is set a little bit of context and introduce our panel, our panelists today. So there's a variety of panelists that can join us if they want to turn their cameras on. So there's Dr. Elka Walsh, who's the National Learning from Microsoft, so welcome. Allison Evans Adani, who's the Dev Lead Program Leader from Shopify. Dr. Nora McRae from the University of Waterloo, who's the Vice Provost of Experiential and Career Education, and Dr. Jane Goodar from the Dean of the LaShawn School of Engineering from York University. So thank you. We have an excellent, and I was thinking as I saw the names and I was going through the day, a power panel of women. So thank you so much for joining us as we talk about the partnerships between industry and academia. So as I was introduced, I'm currently interim CEO for WIL Canada, and March has been WIL's second annual Co-op and Work Integrated Learning Month. And we also actually last week had a National Day of Work Integrated Learning. So it has been an amazing month for us with lots of celebrations, including a very exciting announcement of a partnership that we have with the federal government to support innovative WIL through our new iHub. Over this past month, you can find out everything that's been happening by following the hashtag of innovative WIL, as that's been our monthly hashtag and conversation. And it just goes to show how engaged both industry and academia are in this conversation. So I want to just give a little bit of context of WIL and then ask our panelists for questions and answers. So if you don't know, WIL stands for Cooperative Education and Work Integrated Learning Canada. We've been around for almost 50 years. We, in the last few years, expanded our mandate beyond just co-op into all types of work integrated learning. And it's been a really interesting conversation as we talk about innovative WIL, because many of the different types of WIL that are happening and the innovations that are happening are within the definitional set that WIL has, but there's a lot of flexibility within those definitions. One of the things that WIL really has their eye to is quality, and ensuring as we move forward in innovations that we still keep an eye on making sure that the quality component doesn't get lost, as we know that there's been amazing an influx of money that has been in the system for work integrated learning, but we also want to make sure that as we do that, we do it intentionally. As Canada is a global leader in work integrated learning, including paying our students. And those are things that we want to continue to keep an eye on. And at the same time, know that we're going to have to do things differently. So that being said, I would say that you can't talk on a panel nowadays without talking about the pandemic, and knowing that the last year has completely changed, but also just shone a light on many things that we already knew that we could or that we should be doing. And those innovations that have happened over the last year, I think we're going to hear a little bit about them, not only because of the pandemic, but just that it's set a new tone for us across the country. And WIL has really been excited to, I mentioned earlier about our iHub. It's a $16.3 million investment from the federal government to ensure innovations are happening across the country. And we're going to talk a little bit about those today, as well as some great other ideas that are coming. So thank you to everybody for joining us. And my first question is, I'm going to start with Nora, and then I will go to Jane, and then to Elka, then Allison. Tell us what you've been up to. What are some of the innovations that you've seen over the last year, some of the amazing projects that you're working on?
Well, thanks very much, Kara, and congratulations to you and the WIL team for securing that fund for the iHub program. That's going to be really exciting to see how that rolls out. And Canada continues to demonstrate its leadership in this space globally. That's really great. What have we been up to at the University of Waterloo? Well, of course, there's all of the adjustments to in response to COVID and making sure all of our students, just like everybody across the country, working safely and all that kind of thing. I would say that there were a few, in addition to that, there were ways that we wanted to respond to the pandemic so that our students would not only be doing meaningful work, but doing meaningful work in a way that responded to some of the challenges the pandemic threw in front of us. First and foremost, helping our faculty adjust their courses to be able to deliver those remotely. So we had a big initiative around that. Lots of students hired to do that. Hundreds and hundreds of students hired actually to do that, starting last spring, fall, and currently in the winter. And that's been a very successful initiative. I think another thing that we introduced and we're building on an ongoing basis is how do we support our business partners get their businesses online and engage in digital Main Street and other activities where our students can be used as digital experts or to support businesses be more effective. And as a result of that, we started our digital fundamentals year where students could upskill and develop some digital skills very quickly and then immediately deploy them with organizations that needed that help. And for example, Shopify, we engage with Shopify around the e-commerce platform and other digital programs. And we're building on that for some exciting programming that we're planning actually for this spring and summer term.
Thanks, Nora. Over to you, Jane.
Thank you, Cara. Hello, everyone. So very much as at York University, we're in a very similar boat to University of Waterloo and trying to pivot to a fully online environment. And as leading a School of Engineering, it's been just awesome to see the innovation that has occurred when you've got a very a lot of programs that rely on being in the labs and being hands-on. It is amazing what technology can do. Using virtual reality, we've thrown the kitchen sink at it. It's been amazing to see. But I actually want to talk about a very special work integrated project we have in alliance with Shopify first. And so I'd want to bring in Alison to talk about what we've done with the dev degree, and then I'll come in later about sort of what we're doing right now. So Alison, can I just throw it over to you for a moment?
Sure. So dev degree, if you don't know, is a program at Shopify that we've had we're in our 6th year now and graduating our 2nd cohort of students. We partner with York and with Carleton University and support students as they're partnering, as they're taking computer science undergraduate degree. They're working part-time at Shopify and they're rotating through different teams. So it's kind of like co-op on steroids. It's just a little bit more than the traditional co-op we've seen in Canada to date. We are very excited about the integrated degree though, because our students, they take 3 courses a semester at our partner universities. They also get academic credit for some of the work they're doing, but they're learning more in the work environment than that structure currently supports. And I'm excited about the integrated degree program that we're looking at with York, because we're able to recognize more of what they're learning at work rather than what they're learning in class. And I'll just hand it over back to you, Jane, for that.
So just a sneak preview. So you can tell from my accent I'm not from these parts. And so I'm actually originally British, but I've also spent several years in New Zealand. And one thing that the UK have been working on over the last eight years is a big overhaul of their apprenticeship system. And they've actually instigated full work integrated learning models at degree levels, master's levels, and the PhD levels. So it's a bit like the Germanic dual system of vocational and academic systems. So I took this system over to New Zealand, and I'm proud to say that I'm bringing it to Canada. And this integrated program, it is the full version of a full work integrated learning program. So you've got the co-op in the middle, and then you've probably got capstone or having projects at the other level. And so this is a very collaborative, co-designed, co-developed process with employers and universities. And essentially the learner simultaneously works on the job, learns online and in the classroom. And on average, they spend about 20% of the time at university and 80% of their time at their employer. They're employed full time. And so this could open up opportunities for accessible education because they're employed. They can do a degree in 4 years. They don't have debt, and they're talent attracted to that organisation from day one. So I'll be very happy to talk more about the future of the integrated programs for Canada.
Thanks, Jane. I've had the pleasure of speaking with Jane about this, and it is exciting to see this this model come to Canada, and CWIL's been a bit involved as well. So thanks for bringing us into that. And Elka and Nora have a exciting project that they've been working on together as well. So I'm going to pass it to Elka to talk a little bit about what they're up to between Microsoft and the University of Waterloo.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's such a pleasure to be with all of you today, especially with such a dynamite panel like this. So at Microsoft Canada, we've been working on a few things. You know, when we think about the pivot and the resiliency that's been required of all of us, you know, partnering and collaborating with higher education institutions across Canada is one of those top priorities, because it's not then just about helping companies across Canada pivot and be resilient, but how do we support it and give opportunities to the next generation coming up so that they can see their pathway into this rapidly changing world of work. And so, you know, we're working with and have announced our Canada Skills program, and I'm so excited because the work that we're doing with the University of Waterloo is really taking the principles of what we want to do with higher education to provide these kinds of opportunities to earn the best of the Canadian degree or diploma, as well as those experiences for the future of work. And with the University of Waterloo, working with them around their We Accelerate program for first and second year students to really get that opportunity to develop, yes, their digital skills, but also very importantly, that social, emotional, that curiosity, that creativity and innovation, that problem-based learning opportunity to really think through, you know, how can they be part of a multidisciplinary team in the world of work and solve problems that are really relevant. It's this kind of innovation with University of Waterloo that's just got me so excited working with Nora and her team.
you. You can feel the excitement on all of these pieces, so I love hearing it. I'm going to ask though, what do you think were the keys to your partnership? So for both, for anybody that wants to talk about it, but but for both of these projects, how did that partnership happen, and what could you give as advice for whether there are organizations at the industry level or on the academic side of how do you seek out these partnerships, or do they just happen through collisions?
I can tackle that one, Kara. Thanks. That's a great question. I would say that in order for Elka and her team to work with the University of Waterloo and for us to work with them, there are a few key ingredients. First of all is a long-standing relationship. You know, we've been very privileged to work with Microsoft over the years. They've been wonderful employers of our students over time. So there's already a relationship, and I think that that's really an important part of this. The other key component is we have built this we're calling it the Accelerate Waterloo Experience Accelerate program, which is a combination of hands-on applied research or applied project work and skill development and career and employability programming around all of that over the course that we'll do it start at this spring term. What also enabled that to happen, we're coming back to one of your initial points about quality. So we built this program using the structures of quality that we adhere to in our co-op program, and that's outlined in the quality framework that we've adopted across Canada, really. And those are that there needs to be a pedagogical component, there's learning. So this is where the Microsoft courses and digital skills is coming in, plus our career skill development. There's meaningful experience that's substantial and related to that skill development, where students are applying their skills in real world situations, working with employers and doing projects. There's the assessment of learning, and there's reflection, meaningful reflection that brings it all together. So we've used the core components of a quality structure, and that has also helped guide us. So I think that those would be two important pieces: relationships that we already have, and using the quality framework to guide us in the development of a quality WIL program, which is different than our traditional co-op.
And if I can just add to that, because I think it's so important that we did have a strong relationship that we could build from. You know, it was coming from a place of trust. And what it enabled us to do was come with each of our goals. So we both had, as organizations, goals that we were trying to achieve that were close enough that we were able to have a yes and conversation. And I think really coming from that perspective of wanting to see the other partner be successful, and then also give room with a growth mindset to really think through what else might we do. And so I think that was one of the things that got us all energized. Was the conversation ended up being not so much about what one of us was going to win out of this. It was really suddenly we were building something remarkable and different because we were coming at it with a yes and principle.
I love that yes and. That's a great principle to look at when you're looking at partnerships, because then it's a true partnership, right? So I'm going to go to Jane and to Allison. What about you? Is there anything that you would say to add on to the points that Nora and Elka brought up?
I think the only thing I would say to add on was that one of the things that attracted us to working with Lassonde was our alignment in terms of our culture. With Dev Degree, we have a very strong focus on accessibility and diversity, and Lassonde matched us in that. And we were able to have those yes and conversations, and it was exciting. And willing to open up the box a bit and see what else we could do to meet our culture and values was very important to us.
Thanks for saying that, Alison. I totally agree with you. I think also not just looking at one-on-one relationships, like, for instance, Lassonde and Shopify. If we were to look at how to bring work integrated learning to lots of organisations and employers, I think, Nora, you are right. It's always important to have that relationship. So how do organisations connect in the first place? I mean, University of Waterloo have been leading the way globally in terms of the co-op, and you do have those deep, meaningful relationships. It's, if we really want to become and have work integrated learning to be very accessible to all, we have to start making it easy and transparent for both parties, the employer and the learner provider, to make it easy to make those connections. So that's what I'd like to add to the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Jane. And it does remind me of the fact that for strong WIL opportunities, we really do need that, I call it the trifecta of, the student needs to be there, obviously, but then also, that learner partner at the industry and also at academia, so that's embedded back in. And I was talking about this on the panel last week, was the whole concept about it being work integrated learning is it is integrated into something, and that's really that richness and it helps students understand what they're learning when they go back in the classroom, and then understanding more as well when they're in industry. So there is that co-relationship. So that partnership also has and it has the student at the center of it, learning, and everybody that partnership or learns alongside each other. So those partnerships really are true partnerships, not just one-sided, which I think everybody spoke to a little bit here. I'm going off script on the questions, but I know that you guys all have these, so I'm going to dig in a little bit though about the accessibility piece. One of the questions that was put forward and that we've talked a lot about is globalization. We've talked about diversity, accessibility. How do you see your programs and the innovations that you're doing in your programs allow for a more accessible experience for somebody who might not be traditionally involved in work integrated learning, or how you are aligning those values with the programs that you're developing? I'll throw it out there to whoever wants to answer first.
I'd be happy to jump right into that. That's something we think about a lot at DevDegree. And it's actually how we differentiate ourselves internally in Shopify as well. In DevDegree, we hire based on potential. So we're not looking for demonstrated experience. We're not looking for marks. Actually, we let our university partners handle that. But bringing our applicants in and asking them the basic teamwork skills. How do you collaborate? What experience have you had on the team? How do you manage your time? Why are you interested in computer science? Without asking for the demonstration or the artifact or the proof of programming. You don't need a programming course to enter a university program. You just need the aptitude. So we've developed an application process that's blind. We don't look at name. We don't look at location, ethnicity, anything like that. And it's based on potential. And every year I'm amazed when we lift the veil, and we are actually at 50-50 and for gender diversity for a computer science program. So by tweaking and changing how we look for our applicants or for our participants, we're able to really open the doors for accessibility.
Could I just lead on here? So with the new programs we're developing, it's going to be around digital technologies, which you could equate it to a traditional computer science degree. So we're creating software developers, cybersecurity people, and so forth. Now, in the UK, this model, they have typically in this degree program, a third are high school leavers, a third are people who've already got degrees, but they're wanting to pivot into a new career, and a third are already employees that are going to be upskilled. The other thing is that we're already working within at a district school board level to work with year 10 students who are predominantly underserved in the digital technology sector. So, and we're working on is it a chism or a chasm? I can't remember what they term it, but working with the district school board to take these learners through year 10, 11 and 12 to give them the skills, the work ethics, to get them prepared for employment into the new integrated program. So we're working really hard on that accessibility piece.
I love that part about this program. How about Nora and Elka?
Yeah, thank you. Kara, the program that Elka and I are working on, and as well as other colleagues, is geared for that first work term student. So right away, you've got a student who it's tricky for them, right? Not any experience under their belt and that sort of thing. So right away, we're working with that group. Within that group, our numbers are that 75.9% are coming from underrepresented groups already. That's the starting point. So those are women in STEM, those are racialized students, those are Indigenous students, amongst others. So that already, this is a very accessible program and one that is available to our students across all faculties. And the idea here is in doing this kind of programming and introducing these digital skills and this training in a very much of an upskilling way, it also is very accessible. It's not throwing someone into the deep end if they don't necessarily want to do a full-on degree in this, but it is giving them skills that any kind of organization could use. And that would be another part of this, is that in order to identify what is the training we wanted the students to have, and part of connecting in with Elka and her team was we did an analysis of over 70,000 job postings where we identified what skills were employers actually looking for. And then we can break that down now because we have such a large database and data set at the University of Waterloo because of our scale. We can break that down by faculty, by department, by year. And so we did break all that down. And so for first work term students, these junior folk, what is it employers not only were asking for, but were hiring for? And that enabled us to be very strategic in selecting the kinds of partners we wanted and the kinds of training we wanted to help this group get off the ground in an even better way.
I love what Nora's just shared, because I think this is one of the things when I think about how innovative this program is, and how important it is when we think about accessibility and inclusion, for every single student to have an opportunity. And this is what I think when there is this pathway that can be created. Everything from, let us start with digital literacy for every student and move them through the capabilities to create and communicate using some of the productivity tools and what's possible, so that they can express themselves and create business relevant documentation and communications, because that's a new skill for many of them. While they're learning to write research papers, shifting over to what the world of work is looking for is a different kind of skill set. And so, I think those are really important core skill sets that are being developed, as being able to communicate well. And we know that is so critical in the world of work. The second thing is to move the student through and give them increasingly deeper opportunities depending on their desired pathway and where they want to focus, whether that's AI or data or cloud, and provide them then the opportunities to succeed in increments, so that they're able to move from that communication into maybe some coursework around or experiential opportunity around the strategy of technology and business. And what do businesses think about when they're thinking about culture change and ethics? And so all of these are key pieces that we would not normally expect to find in a work integrated learning experience, but will be found in this kind of a partnership. And then from there, moving them into really, if there is the opportunity and they have the desire and the ability to move into the actual role-based certifications that industry is looking for, so that they're actually really getting the best of both worlds and ready to go. And that's I think the opportunity is that it can go as quickly and as deep as the student is ready to go. And being then not just the partner to each other, Microsoft and the university, but being the partner then to the student to match them where they want to be going.
Thank you. I think that it's great to hear, like as everyone's talking about it, it's talking about the building blocks, right? Like the innovation is happening based on some really strong foundations of partnerships, but also those strong foundations of proven work integrated learning strategies, and then also looking to the future to say, really, what is the future workforce look like, and how can we advance the different types of WIL? And as I'm thinking about WIL, for example, and we sometimes are the people in the, if we're all together in the audience, sometimes people say like, oh, WIL, they have their definitions and, their frameworks. But what I see how that really helps Canada and also our global partners as we talk with them about having that really strong framework. And yes, we have definitions because as Nora is talking about data, then that allows us to measure things, and how when we can measure things and we can inform decisions that we're making, and when we know what bucket we're putting it in, then it helps us to be able to compare things. But also for anybody who's listening right now from industry, I think it's great that there's so much that's happening. If you talk to one of your academic partners, you could probably come up with some great ideas just based on the building blocks of what you're hearing right now, but also just the different types of work integrated learning, because different types do suit different types of industry. They also suit different types of students and the accessibility for students. So I just, there's lots that when you're talking and thinking, well, yes, this works and this works. So I guess one of the questions that I have for you is, as you've been building these programs, what are some of the challenges you either thought you were going to face, or some of the challenges that you have faced? And how have you kind of overcame those as you've been developing the programs? Any challenges?
Can start, Kara. When we started to conceptualize this program, it was actually just before Christmas. So one of the challenges, of course, is in the case of the University of Waterloo, we're not talking about 10 students. We're talking about thousands of students. So how do you do something quality, fast, scaled up, out the door, with all of that? Just before Christmas. So, and in an environment where people have been dealing with a pandemic for a year, people are tired. People don't want to talk about new ideas or do new things. They just want to get their bloody vaccine and move on, if we can, ever get there, but that's a whole other panel. So I think that that's also one of the challenges. How do we keep innovating in a time that's really hard for people personally right now? All sorts of individual challenges as people navigate this really unusual time. However, what was interesting to me is reaching out to an employer partner like ELCA, almost, I would say, no hesitation in engaging in something like this. So the interest, clearly the interest was there, and the desire to try and do something in very short order, despite people being exhausted and the unknowns. We still have a great deal of unknown ahead of us. In addition, our academic partners and the team at the University of Waterloo, also I'm just very appreciative of the ways that people have found that bandwidth, even when one would think that, it's barely all you can do to get out of bed in the morning, given everything that people have already dealt with. And we talked about that at the beginning of this panel, putting everything online, getting all the students safe, all that kind of stuff that we've all been dealing with. So I just think that weren't sure that people would have the capacity to even take up such a new idea, take one up in such short order, take one up at such scale, and also with such enthusiasm. And I'm very, very grateful to the employer partners and to the team at the University of Waterloo that this kind of enthusiasm is there, because it really carries us all forward.
I think one of the things that we learned as we started working together was just how much enthusiasm there really was and how much energy. So one of the principles that we ended up and have brought now, all of us, to our work together, is that if we don't ask each other, neither one of us can say yes. So we really have learned to not be shy about asking questions and wondering together. And I think that is where we have gotten to such a wonderful place around the innovation, because they're very quickly we learn to not be shy or hesitant or wonder whether or not the other is going to think maybe less of us. On the contrary, the more we've opened up together and been transparent and been brave to ask questions, the more we've all been able to nod heads and go, yeah, we can do that. And then, it builds more wonderful and new that we didn't think possible before.
Okay, so I'll take this probably isn't a popular because I'm just going to look at the Canadian system in terms of how academic programs become into fruition. And I have to say, compared to the UK, Australia, New Zealand, it takes years to approve new programs. If we really want to be innovative, we have to have some sort of pot where we can actually play with these new programs. And it's like a sand pit where we can just go, hey, let's all come together, let's do what we need to do, let's do a proof of concept. Yeah, it works. Let's get on. So I feel a bit how can I say, amazed at the time it takes to actually develop and approve totally new programs. So that's the challenge for me. I think some of the positives I've seen in Canada are working alongside very open, innovative employers at all sizes and shapes. When I speak to employers about this innovation, they're very open. They really want to get their hands in dirty. So, yeah, I've been very brutal. So apologies to that.
There's nobody that is on any set here that's going to going to respond to that, to you, Jane. But I will say I agree. I know we had this conversation about and you had said that same thing to me when we had met. And the one thing I would say that I have found, though, being in the area of work integrated learning, is that we have some flexibility within the programs. That's not like, as long as it fits into the academic program, there seems to be flexibility there, and there's also ability to work with partners that allows us to move a little bit faster in areas. And I think that while I know when you're making a new program that's difficult, but I've seen some great things happen fairly quickly, because as long as you set in the parameters of the program, the type of WIL can be a little bit more flexible. So I think that's a good thing, but I don't think anybody would disagree with you there. Allison, anything that you want to add on to it? Some challenges that you encountered or expected to? Sure, and maybe I'll bring it back to what you opened with, like this pandemic, which we're all trying very hard to thrive in. At Shopify, we've decided that we're not going back to the office. So what the dev degree team has been diving into and realizing is that with working remotely, we've lost a lot of the casual. And especially in the first and second placement, like Nora and Elka's program, a lot of that casual was super important for our teams. The being physically with your student, and it has impacted our students. So figuring out how to formalize what was previously informal has been a lot of our challenge in the recent months. Yeah, I agree. I actually wrote something on LinkedIn not too long ago regarding collision conversations and how important they are, and how to try to replicate that collision, right? Because so much happens, even at this kind of event. You know, Brett put in there, speaking of pandemic challenges, go to the networking function so you can get outside of your bubble. Like, how do you create these intentional collisions? it looks like we only have a few minutes left. So with the kind of last 4 minutes, I guess my question is if you could each just share briefly what your hope or your vision is. And I'm going to make you be very succinct with it, but with your programs or with the innovation or with where you're seeing your programs in general go, what's the vision that you have for the future? Go ahead, Jane. Oh, you're muted. You can't get past the panel without somebody being muted.
I truly believe work integrated learning is the best way for a learner to learn. And so my future world would be that every learner at every level has a work integrated learning experience.
I second that. In whatever flavor, as you've mentioned, work integrated learning comes in so many flavors, and making all of those flavors more accessible to everyone.
I love it. And, Jane, Allison, I couldn't agree more. An opportunity for every student. And, I might work for one of the largest tech companies in the country, in the globe. But when I say every, I mean every student, regardless of the barrier they may face or the program that they're in, and that those experiences are truly social, so that they're multidisciplinary and students are working together with each other across the disciplines and with industry closely. An opportunity for all of them to be understanding of the world they're going into, while we also try and figure that out as we are pivoting the world of work. I think we've got a great opportunity to build it together.
Great. Well, that's lovely answers from everyone. And I would say that, of course, I echo what everyone has said. But I would also add that my vision for the future of work integrated learning, in addition to all learners having an opportunity to have this experience, is that we've been historically very focused on employability as the reason. Why should everyone have work integrated learning? Part of it is around deepening the appreciation and understanding. It fundamentally is an educational program, but a lot of it has been around employability. And believe me, there's nothing wrong with employability. But I would like to see us take it to the next step, which is, in addition to employability, really thinking about how do we prepare our young learners, our students, this talent to be to sustain themselves, to help sustain the organizations in which they work and the communities in which they live. And how does work integrated learning help us get there as one of the strategies? I mean, it's not a miracle, but as one of the strategies, and being intentional and thoughtful about that, and thinking more than here's a skill, here's a job, here's employability, but rather here is resilience, here is adaptability, here is thoughtfulness, and here is integrity, and here is someone who's graduating who can really help us meet the challenges that we are all going to be facing on this planet.
Well, I think that was beautifully summed up by everybody. It has been my pleasure to host you today and to speak with you. The amount of expertise and innovation, and just if you haven't been inspired by anything today, let this panel be it. There's truly some amazing thought leadership here and doing. So thank you all. Keep doing the amazing things that you are. It has been my pleasure to be connected with each one of you, and have a good rest of your day. I think that we head back over to the stage for Technation to wrap everything up. So thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you in the next room. Thank you.
Sarah, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.